right, so we're going to welcome back and have everybody share a fun fact and their name. Oh, no, just kidding. We did that already. Let's not do that again. Thank you. Okay. So, one more reminder. I'm Krista Johnson-Perkins, the product director for the things that we've been talking about all day. And I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's session, The Future of Institutional Repositories, Advancing Access, Insights, and Impact. So today we've gathered a panel of our IR practitioners and thought leaders who are living and shaping the evolution of scholarly communication, from infrastructure and strategy to advocacy and innovation. So let's first begin by introducing our voices behind today's conversation.
Hi, again. I'm Allison DeCock.
Fun fact? No, just kidding.
Yeah, right. Beluga. I was the beluga one. I worked at Shedd Aquarium, that's why. I'm from the American Dental Association, and I'm the digital archivist and publishing librarian. And we've just had an IR for under 2 years, so forgive me if I say anything stupid.
And I'm Heather Hankins, and I work at Kennesaw State, which is right near Atlanta, Georgia.
And there's no stupid comments or questions here. I've been here 6 months, so I'm sure I'll say something even dumber than that. Challenge accepted. So again, each of us brings a unique perspective on how IRs can meet the moment and also prepare for what's next. So together, we're going to explore how IRs are being reimagined in a time of rapid and, let's be honest, a little nebulous sometimes transformation. So here's how we're going to spend our time together. First, we'll start by I like setting the stage. Why IRs still matter. We've talked about this a lot over the last couple of days, and also why their future is more critical than ever. Then we're going to hear from Allison and Heather, who are going to share their stories of their evolving IR strategies, along with sustained collaboration as they prepare for the challenges of today, while of course getting ready for all the big, bad, beautiful things that are happening in the future. So after that, we're going to wrap up with a look toward the future of IRs, where we're headed, what trends to watch, and how we can shape what's next, including some of our greatest hits from this conference. We've all been sharing a lot of great ways that we're slowly dabbling our way into the future, so we'll bring some of those back. And then close with a bit of a discussion or some questions if we have time, if there's not too many fun facts between now and then. So let's go ahead and dive in. So IRs today, they sit at the intersection of this rising complexity and rising expectations. The volume and variety of content are increasing. We've got data sets, 3D models, visualizations, multimedia things. We talked about a lot of those already. And yet a lot of these workflows and metadata systems are still somewhat manual, maybe disconnected. You heard a lot about this from my colleague Yoga yesterday about the siloed nature, the interoperability that we're looking for. All of these things are still kind of evolving, so it's quite top of mind. And many IRs rely on metadata structures that are optimized for text-based formats versus more of these richer formats that we've been discussing here today. Discoverability with non-text requires different, better, more intuitive search indexing, along with different sorts of media players and other ways to consume that content. There's also this growing tension. We're storing more, but we're surfacing and maybe engaging with less. We've heard from a few DC users who are grappling with this as well, but it's a challenge that may be unique to each individual institution. So how do we all think about the different ways that we can, again, make sure our users are engaging with our content, we're putting the right content there, and giving that forum and that voice. There's also compliance pressures. We talked about accessibility a little bit this week, fair data principles, all of those. Each of these require proactive alignment. And in order to make scholarly communications truly fair, of course, this requires many things: metadata richness, automation, infrastructure updates, and all of this takes time, resources, expertise, things that we're all a little bit hamstrung for. We had a number of army of ones in the various tables that I was at. So how do we, again, create these inclusive IRs while being mindful of our true constraints? And something else that's always fun, I've heard a bunch of times of the cognitive dissonance of this one, is the authors want visibility, whether or not they actually know it and how we can help them. Users want relevance, whether or not they're actually willing to help us meet them there somewhere by providing information about themselves. And us repository teams, team of one or otherwise, are trying to juggle those demands while also grappling with their own constraints of time, resources, and so on. And then, I don't want to say it, but I have to say it, but this looming disruption of AI, where everything seems like it should be easier, cheaper, faster, better, whatever those superlatives are, and yet we don't get a lot of like institutional guidance, for example. We don't have a lot of tolerance for things that might need to be rethought, these entrenched processes that we've spent so much time building but might need to disrupt a little bit because we should have this all this stuff be better and easier and faster. And then all of that is with this mandate of doing things at scale, which sounds great, and of course we want it at scale, but that's hard too. So really trying to do all of those things with this lens of responsibility and ethics. So generally speaking, this landscape, it just asks more of us and more of our systems. And so thinking about the future, what should our eyes be now as we ready ourselves for the future? So again, thinking about the IR is no longer being just like a digital filing cabinet. I don't think it's been that way for quite a while, actually, now that I think about it. But more instead, it's like an anchor, a place of academic integrity, preserving access, transparency, and scholarly trust. As higher ed faces political interference, financial strain, algorithmic bias, all the other things and trends that are really having us think about what we do and why we do it. In this case, the IR is a strategic accelerator, right? It amplifies the institution's research brand. It unlocks funding opportunities through increased visibility and compliance. And we're doing all of this, of course, with this lens of integrity and inclusivity. So by streamlining deposit and surfacing scholarship broadly, the IR builds trust while advancing access, accountability, and institutional impact. And so what I love about IRs is that at its best, they offer insight that aligns with our institutional priorities. It highlights research strengths and uncovers new opportunities for visibility and engagement. It also is a living, breathing thing. It evolves alongside the institutions and all the pieces that are within that. This might mean adapting to changing needs, technologies, and standards that are on the staff level, institution level, the user level, everywhere, and we all have to be ready for all of that. So when done well, an IR becomes a sustainability partner, really, with the institution, preserving the scholarly record while enabling future growth, access, and the buzzword that we heard a bunch of times through our keynote and throughout our sessions today, but impact. And so with that context in mind, I'm going to hand it over to Allison and Heather to bring these ideas to life through their real-world examples and emerging strategies. Just the green button.
All right, so it's time to talk about Kennesaw State University and how we're using the IR to support everything Krista just said. So first, context. Kennesaw State University is in Kennesaw, Georgia. It's right outside Atlanta, and it's the third largest university in the state of Georgia. It has over 47,000 students, about 1,300 faculty, and about 2,000 staff. Our IR was started in 2008, specifically to house theses and dissertations. We call it the Digital Commons at Kennesaw State University. And we've been lucky to have at least one full-time employee dedicated to the IR since it was started. In 2018, I came on board, and our team has stayed at 2 full-time employees since then. In our most recent strategic plan, KSU released several goals that are really applicable to the IR. We're targeting research that advances society, community engagement and inspiration, and increased influence and prominence. So this is really cool because previously it was just student success, and that's very vague and kind of difficult to get down to something that's helpful. So in my team, we kind of clarified those goals down into 3 tenets: connection, dissemination, and preservation. For us, connection is about more than just connecting people to the content we have. It's about being a place that our on and off campus communities can reach out to find someone willing to help, either with a corner of the internet for their special interest project, or just a timely introduction to someone who's doing something relevant or uses a tool that they could use. In the past 7 years, I've been able to build not only the IR's reputation, but also the libraries and KSU's, just by saying yes to the people who come to me and being enthusiastic about helping. I always say I offer both technical support and emotional support to people. Even if the IR isn't the right place for a specific item, I'm still happy to learn about it and connect them to people. I also want connections to mean that people know where to find that institutional and historic knowledge. KSU started as a junior college in the 1960s. It's grown really quickly. One of the downsides to that growth is there's a lot of silos across campus within colleges and departments People don't really know what's happening across campus. And so I've been pushing the IR to kind of help bridge some of those gaps with, like, an example is our distinguished course repository, which uses a journal shell to house excellent D2L course shells. So people can read that and then go request a copy of that D2L shell from the editor, and they don't have to start from scratch to build an excellent course. A collection that's coming down the pipeline is an instructional material repository for our collegiate librarians. So they're going to house their favorite instruction resources, and then if their job duties change or they leave KSU, they don't have to start from nothing. The next person actually has a starting point, and our learning community doesn't suffer from those changes. Dissemination is obviously a really standard goal. But going back to Chris's mention of content diversity, I really think that the importance of gray literature can get lost in the pressures of higher education. It's really hard to get faculty who are thinking about promotion and tenure to care about the small things like the course syllabi. With our foundation in ETDs, I think it's been easy for us at KSU to kind of see how many different types of scholarship there are across campus outside of the journal article and the monograph. And I feel that the non-traditional work is often more impactful than the traditional one. Our Museum of Art gives us learning guides. They build them for both university classes and for K-12 classes. And so these guides help instructors kind of use these exhibits in their classrooms, and it pairs really well with a field trip to the exhibit, but it also is robust enough to stand alone. And so with these guides, not only is the museum's hard work reaching a wider audience that maybe isn't local, we're also supporting arts education, and we're promoting KSU. And it's really hard to kind of say that a journal article about the artist or the exhibit would be compelling to like a fifth grader or a prospective freshman. And then if you zoom out from gray literature, I also rely really heavily on our publishing suite to disseminate different research and ideas. We have about 15 active journals at our repository, and we have another 15 archived. We have undergraduate journals, regional journals, professional society, and even international journals. We see our IR as a journal incubator, where people can kind of grow those ideas and those passions into a big formal publication with support. One of my favorite, and not just because it was the first one I worked on, is Maya America, which is an international journal that focuses on the lived experiences of and the important topics to the Maya diaspora. The idea came from a professor's course project, which then grew into a community project, which came to the IR when the IT updates to the university site lost them several bits of important documentation. So we got the rest of it, and then they're like, well, we want to grow this. And they're like, would you like a journal? And now it's been going strong for about 7 years. It has a strong audience in Central and Southern America, and it is just really fascinating. We even have another Maya-centered journal that came from that one where they saw the work they were doing. Like, well, we're archaeologists talking about the Maya for the Maya. Can we have one? And so it just kind of grows from there. That dissemination does come back to connections. So my team, I think we all do, see ourselves as like stewards of knowledge. And so these days, preservation is really important. It's coming to the forefront more and more. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But I also want to touch on metadata's role in preservation. The metadata is key because why would you keep something if you didn't know what it was or where it came from or what it means? It's also an opportunity to talk to your researchers about their desired audience and what's really needed to communicate the point of the artifact. Within my student collections, there's a lot of flexibility of what metadata fields should be included. Personally, for student coursework, I like to add course number, course title, and professor name. That way, if someone comes across a cool project or something, they can say, oh, well, maybe I want to take that course. Maybe I want to go meet with that professor. And so it just, again, builds those connections. The challenges, one of the big ones at KSU is a high change environment. I already said we've grown fast, but also outside of any external factors, KSU just really loves change. The best example I have is our PhD in data science and analytics program. In like a short time, like maybe 3 semesters, maybe 4, it changed names twice and home departments 3 times. You wouldn't think you could do it, but they did. They did. That level of change is really difficult to navigate, to gain any traction with established departments or faculty. They kind of just wait you out. You can catch a few passionate new faculty every fall, but anything deeper is a waiting game. I think you have to kind of try any program or approach at least 3 different semesters in a row before people trust that you're not just going to disappear one day and that the effort that they give you isn't going to just disappear in the next wave of changes. Not unexpectedly, that high level of change leads to increased burnout. People are really tired, they're overwhelmed, and they're trying to keep up with not only their core job, but also all the new things. They're trying to be nimble, agile, responsive. It's exhausting. Coming to people and saying, hey, why don't you do this one additional thing? It's a great idea. It's really easy. That's how you get your calls screened and your emails ignored. I've hosted, to kind of combat this, upload days where I try to lure people into hopefully a fun, like kind of Wikipedia edit-a-thon experience of let's all upload our stuff together. And I'm going to try and revisit that this fall and see if we can get even more people to kind of just give me your stuff, talk to me. I would really appreciate it. And the final challenge I want to highlight just for all of us is our roles and job processes are really complex. We make a lot of effort to kind of simplify them down so that they can last, so they can be reused, and also while keeping them user-friendly so we get more buy-in, while also getting the important things like accessibility and metadata correct. It feels like some days I just sit and think about how to solve problems. I don't actually solve any. I just ponder. So what does the future hold? I think, obviously, that access is only going to become more and more important. And I hope that we can be successful in leveraging the current mess in higher education into a wider appreciation of access than IR can provide. In the past, we struggled to convince KSU faculty that allowing us to hold copies of their work is worth the effort. Many of our faculty have felt that the original publisher does a good enough job of preservation and dissemination, and that the connections that they might make outside of their specific field just aren't valuable. But these days, funding is unstable, and journals are shuttering here and there. It's bringing anxiety about that hard work being lost, about people not being able to find foundational research. I'm definitely going to be pushing the locked preservation strategy. If you have lots of copies, then chances are reduced that your work will just disappear. I really want to build my ability to provide analysis of the IR. Right now, I'm still mostly at the point of, please just talk to me and give me your things. I don't care, like, just give it to me. But I don't even always get to the dashboard angle, because before they're like, no. But in the future, I would love to provide data beyond downloads and streams. I want to be able to kind of maybe weigh downloads of like, hey, that person downloaded one thing, probably just someone curious. But that person downloaded like all your papers on physics in this one specific subtopic. That one's probably using that research, or maybe even doing a kind of a survey of, hey, you downloaded this. What do you use it for like our learning guides? And I think having that feedback would be really helpful to the collection stakeholders, and also really helpful to those who are still IR agnostic to tell them the story of, well, this is what happens to your work when you give it to me. At the end of the day, the impact that I'm personally chasing is the connection and the stability that flexes a little bit. Connection not only between scholars in the same field, but also the institution and its community, and between departments and colleges and their prospective students, or their alumni, or their faculty. Bringing those pieces together and giving them a place to see what their peers are doing, and so they can riff off that. And flexible stability is a paradox, but I think it's what's needed in our IRs. We need to be responsive to change, but also maintain that stable place to house the breadth of work at an institution. Let the university websites focus on being flashy and cool. I want to showcase the lore. I want to showcase our history of excellence, and I really want all those weird little collections that exist across campus.
Can I give you the... All right. Hi, everybody. Beluga person. If you remember anything about me, it's going to be the beluga. So I'm Allison. I manage our IR at it's called the ADA Commons. It's at the American Dental Association. So ADA Commons was built specifically for our state and local dental societies. So the way we're a tripartite, so if you're a dentist and you want to be a member of the ADA, you're a member at your local level, so say the Chicago Dental Society, at the state level, the Illinois State Dental Society, and then at the national level. So all of those societies have their own member publications, including clinical peer-reviewed journals. So that's what they wanted a way to share and preserve their publications and their other materials. So what's special about ADA Commons is it actually wasn't developed by our library team at the ADA. It didn't come out of like the C-suite saying we need this thing. I don't know when that happens, but it actually came directly from our members. So what happened is most state and local societies have their journal or newsletter. In the early days of COVID-19, dentists, as you can imagine, were really scrambling to figure out how to care for their patients while keeping themselves, their patients, their staff safe. So they were also, at the same time, then publishing clinical, critical information, practical, even life-saving, at that time, clinical guidance in their own member publications. But those materials were, of course, hard to find if you weren't a member of that specific society. They were behind membership walls. They weren't indexed. They weren't being crawled by search engines, just as the nature of these journals. So at a time when quick access to trustworthy information was essential, this was a real problem, and our members wanted a solution. So like many, if not most, initiatives at the ADA, this is a case where the members identified a need. They raised that through our House of Delegates, which is an elected body of ADA members, that they're tasked with proposing and voting on major initiatives that the national office, us, carries out. So members had asked for one place to publish, preserve, and make their content available while still being able to keep their society's branding and independence, because they each all have their own logos and their own colors and palettes and all of that stuff. So that's how ADA Commons was born in 2023. All right, so because of that history, partnerships are really at the heart of how ADA Commons operates. Participation by each of the societies is totally voluntary. They're independent groups, so they don't have to join if they don't want to. Why wouldn't they, you might ask? Or maybe you wouldn't, because this is a group that knows how hard it can be to bring people into the cult of AI. Or AI? No. IR, okay. Of course, many of these societies have very small teams. So they might just have a couple of people running their society, so they're in charge of like doing CE and running events and peer activities and all of the different things the societies do. So they don't have any experience with IRs. They don't really want to. They've got enough on their plate already. So that's where our army of two come in at the ADA. We kind of guide them through that process. But that's why from the start, because some of them are a little bit like anxious about joining, we really focus on building that partnership and having a lot of strong communication. We're kind of in the driver's seat at National as the admins, but we expect them to be backseat drivers the whole way, because obviously it's their site. So part of that structure is we used a very phased onboarding and launch process. We phase it so we don't overwhelm them with all of the details right away, because obviously there's a lot of details when you're designing a new journal site or journal collection. So phasing them kind of allows us to share those expectations, but then go about it in a very deliberate, timely manner that we can then remind them along the way, but not like, remember, in 2 months, you're going to have to do all of these things. Hopefully it prevents some confusion later, hopefully. We refer to the phases very regularly to reinforce where they are in the process and what then they have to expect next. They also have the choice, of course, of managing their site themselves, or they can have us do it. That's pretty common, I think. But either way, we try to stay in really regular contact with them. We actually do a lot of the training for them. I know we have wonderful people at Elsevier that will do that, but for us, it's part of the way we try to build more of that connection with them so that they know they can just come to us, and not our wonderful, wonderful Kirsty, but, you know, I don't want to overwhelm them either with our people. Okay, so most societies, of course, join because they want to archive their work, but quickly see all of the other possibilities once they understand what Digital Commons can offer. So like last week, we just launched our first podcast collection. I know it's not like earth-shattering, but it's important to us. So that was from the South Florida District Dental Association. We have a few that will also be using the conference features as well. I think, but the biggest perk, other than archiving, are the metrics. We know, and I'm sure you do too, authors use these stats in their grant reporting, in applications, to demonstrate the visibility of their work. Editors, of course, love it because it encourages new submissions, and helps gain and retain advertisers too, because they can show those stats there. And then we keep making the process easier for folks. We build custom metadata forms for when they're submitting new issues. We actually build custom video tutorials, kind of whatever they need to get on board and feel comfortable. But the biggest source of confidence in working with us and publishing with ADA Commons is its they know it's something they asked for. Like their members, the people running the societies, they know their members wanted this. So it's built on that member demand, it's supported by the ADA, and it's not going anywhere. Okay, so that's one side of it. The other side I wanted to talk about is our digital exhibits. I know we've heard a few people talk about the digital exhibits. We went all in on these last year. We love them. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about how we address that. And how we address that is EAT. So ADA Commons, of course, isn't just for our members. The ADA has a long history of promoting oral health initiatives to the public, and the ADA Commons can now be a part of that too. So like all of us, we want anyone to find value with our IR. So we're looking at dental and medical students, patients, history buffs, people just curious about dentistry and dental care. And because of that lovely unlimited content thing, we also have made ADA Commons the digital archive for the ADA. And that, of course, then opened the door to one of our favorite things, which is the exhibits. So what we do, we use EAT when we're thinking about new exhibits, engaging, accessible, and timely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm hoping that our wonderful tech folks in the back, this is a video. I don't know if you can hit play on it. Oh, does it go? It goes. Thank you. So this is just going to scroll in the background. But this is a scrolling exhibit we put up in at the very end of January. It's a history of the National Children's Dental Health Month, which is every February. So it kind of goes through the history of that. But I just wanted to kind of have this go while I talk about EAT. So E is for engaging, which means it's fun, it's interesting. These exhibits are designed for the public, although they're written more for like teens and adults at this point, but next year we are going to add one for kids with vintage dental comics, which should be fun. But at the same time, we look at the exhibits as a way to provide oral health information to the public in a much more kind of chill way. So as opposed to when you go to your dentist and your hygienist, you'll say, have you been flossing? Like, we know it's flossing, it's important, we get it already. But we try not to like be too aggressive with these exhibits. So that's engaging, we want people to have fun with it. Accessible, obviously, that means two things. We want, the language is written for a general audience. It's not for dentists, it's not for people in the field. We want anyone to understand the information that we're trying to convey. But then, of course, we want the exhibits to be useful and usable for people of any ability. So we include the accessibility functionality available in Digital Commons, and when it's included from our societies. We all know that's not always easy. We aren't always successful, but we are always trying. So use that, alt text, all of that. And then finally, timely means we tie exhibits to current events. So last year we released a sports and dentistry exhibit right before the Summer Olympics. And then we also did one on dentistry in the military. This went live. We actually collaborated with the ADA with a new philanthropic project called Give Vets a Smile. So that helps connect veterans with free or reduced cost dental care in their area. So we promoted that just before Veterans Day with news releases, promotional postcards that we had attached little red poppy remembrance pins. So both the Veterans exhibit and the Children's Dental Health exhibit here allowed us to partner with our foundation, the ADA Foundation, which is our philanthropy arm, and we almost never get to work with them. So that was really fun. It was more partnerships, more connections. And we get to then support great programs for kids and vets. All right, good timing. So also along with timing, it helps us partner with our marketing team, and they're great. Marketing team always loves more stuff that they can help promote. So our exhibits go out through our member newsletter, our website, and social media. And social media is really the key to get sort of the non-dental folks to see what we're doing. So that's the social media part is really important for us. All right, so my final plug for using exhibits, if you're not, they really make our repository content feel more interactive. They allow you to kind of slow down and explore. In almost any database, you go in, you find the thing, you read the thing, you download the thing, and you're done. There's no browsing in a database, really. It's not built for that, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But exhibits allow you to add some some context to your collection. They show how our state and local societies are connected to each other, how they're connected to the greater world of dentistry, to the ADA, to ADA's larger history, and then they help the public learn about oral health in a much less clinical way, and remind us how rich and impactful the world of dentistry really is. So we love it. All right, so looking forward, what's next? Weirdly, we're actually building a new collection at the ADA in ADA Commons that is a very traditional institutional repository. I know that's not like mind-blowing, but it's something dentists overall really haven't had access to. So many dentists are publishing clinical peer-reviewed research, but they're not affiliated with a university. The dental school they work at doesn't have an IR, or they don't work for either of those places. So now they'll have a place to safely store their stuff, and it'll be another benefit of membership with the ADA, which is always important to, as we are all probably members of professional organizations, the more benefits you can give members, the more you hope that they will stay with you. And then looking ahead with exhibits, we're planning more. We're going to include one, we're building one hopefully this year on fluoridation, which of course hits that timely thing. And another on dentistry and disability, which is we're partnering with the ADA's HR team on that. So partnerships. So more partnerships, more stories, more ways to connect. That's it. Thank you so much for letting me share.
Sure, yeah. I feel like my reading list is like expanding through the last couple of days. And history of dentistry, I might dig into that a little bit on the plane home. I don't know. All right. So again, now that we've seen how the IR continues to evolve, let's again kind of take a little step back, zoom out, and ask again what's next. As we've been talking about, we're in this moment where we can influence the next generation of dentists or IRs or Kennesaw State. What's the mascot? Go Owls, yeah, something like that. So these can be not just reactive systems, but these more intentional platforms, again, that support the emerging scholarly communication needs. So in the words of Alan Kay, I love a good futuristic quote. Yoga had one yesterday that I loved. The best way to predict the future is to invent it. Why not? Why wait, right? So this quote reminds us that the future of IRs won't be handed to us. It will be shaped by the choices that we make in this room, in the next room, and all the next rooms that we're in. And this includes the infrastructure we're going to build, the partnerships that we forge, as we've heard from our two lovely speakers today, and of course, more than ever, the voices that we include. It's both an invitation as well as a responsibility. And in an environment like this conference where practitioners and technologists can get in the same room, it's such an exciting opportunity to get us a little bit closer to that. So as we look ahead, again, we've identified, I'm going to cover 10 trends, and that's not conclusive. There's obviously many more that we could talk about, but some we've discussed here, some are a little bit new. But this is what we've been thinking about when it comes to shaping the future of institutional repositories. So I had to get this one just out of the way, but AI-powered workflows, sure. The hope here, again, as we heard from Theo in the welcome message yesterday, and as we discussed in this room during our workshops and some of our sessions, AI can be an accelerator, both for insights as well as workflows, starting with metadata generation and increasing into, say, storytelling and reporting. Support for increasingly diverse content types, podcasts, oral stories, all the things that we've been hearing about, moving away from PDFs. Thank you, Courtney, whenever she talked about her thing. It does help us reflect how today's scholarship is actually created, shared, and experienced. And again, we heard stories about oral stories from Naomi, Courtney's myriad examples from the community, and Lena's approach on social media preservation. All of these are new ways that we're trying to tell stories, again, outside of creating a PDF, upload it, download it, read it, walk away. Deep system integration and interoperability for a seamless user and admin experience. For example, uploading an item once and pushing it out to all the places that that record needs to live without duplicating your efforts. There's a talk later about a DC and SSRN collaboration. We've got Shirley and Saad here, so go tackle them in a safe way, obviously. We're exploring just that. Yoga also shared about the DC to data, DC to pure data sync. This enhancement was covered yesterday, along with talking about automated data processes and other sorts of harvesting from different external sources that, again, ease that burden of content discovery. Immersive digital experiences. I've heard so many great examples this week. I'm sure you guys have as well. But this is a way that, again, we can have more dynamic dissemination, as we were hearing about from our speakers. Instead of just downloading the static file, this allows them to stay in your IR, get immersed in the content, allow them to explore a scholar's work through interactive data visualizations or video abstracts, some sort of embedded media. We heard a great example from Todd with his flipbook experience, and Cyril actually shared this cool tool that with Yoga and me on a shared student search and discovery tool that one of his students created, which allows them to more intuitively converse with Cal Poly's IR. So I'm sure others are exploring things as well. Talk to each other and share some ideas. That's also why we're all here. Another trend, and I'm so excited about this one in particular, is this idea of improved accessibility and UX, as well as modern UI and UX to, again, serve all of our users. Everyone should have equitable access to scholarly materials, period. And I think everyone in this room really embodies that vision. Easier said than done, but a North Star, again, and a commitment that we all share. And then beyond accessibility, we've actually discussed opportunities for repository tours or chatbots that are different ways, again, to engage with your content's your IR's content, that is. And if you haven't stopped by the Elsevier booth, they have a UX kind of focus area right in the corner here. Check it out. Share your ideas on DC or other products that you use. And that, again, helps us grow and improve. Open science and fair data principles, of course, is a core tenet of any content that we engage with, ensuring that these data sets and other content include machine-readable metadata, persistent identifiers, and clear usage licenses. Our next session with Tracy and Ishwar is actually going to introduce the NIH GRAY initiative and explorations with the future of data management there. And enhanced analytics is obviously also quite close to my heart. I love the idea that we make decisions based on data. Obviously, our M&M friends with their holiday M&Ms, if they just listened to the data, and Krista as a 5-year-old, they'd be so much faster with their rollout. But regardless, going beyond download numbers to what those numbers actually mean. Trending topics, those little nuggets. We spend so much time digging through Excel spreadsheets to find those fun little stories that we can put in our reports to generate funding, create that collaboration and communication, outreach, and other research focus. Later today, Luca is actually going to share more about transforming pure data into engaging impact narratives. So definitely check out that session. I think it's at 4 later today. And obviously the focus of today was a lot on partnerships and community engagement. Both Allison and Heather were talking about hosting collections that were curated in collaboration with communities, becoming a living record of both academic, institutional, as well as civic knowledge. And then Margaret shared a little bit also about preserving DePaul's heritage through collaborative collection building, which was super great. Second to last, of course, this idea of robust preservation. This is really one of the things that obviously our group talked about. We've heard a lot in some of our conversations is that key to ensuring long-term stewardship. This might include aspects such as format migration strategies, integration with national preservation networks, even talking to your marketing team, apparently. Who knew? Again, to ensure that today's research isn't lost to tomorrow's tech changes. We also heard from Marlena about preserving Tampa's history through DCX, and later we're going to hear again from Naomi about engaging undergrads as part of that storytelling. And then the last one that I feel like it's a little bit of, we've been talking about this for decades. Once we got the internet, we were like, how do we make the internet actually something that's usable and meaningful to me? But the idea of personalized portal experience for our individual users and how they interact with your IR. We've been promised this forever, and I think that we're in this great space to then actually go and take that to capture a visiting scholar's attention with relevant collections, trending papers in their field. How do we, again, help them connect the dots between what they want to accomplish and what they have available, what we can provide them in our IRs. Alice shared a glimpse into this potential with her monthly spotlights that curates that ongoing content, again, with the idea that if it's personalized or if it's relevant or timely, as Allison shared, people will come back and those connections will be made.